I was 16 when I stood outside the Miller foster home clutching my old suitcase while watching my parents' silver sedan disappear down the street. Through the rear window, I could see my younger sister Sophia's blonde hair catching the afternoon sunlight as she laughed at something our mom said. They were heading home to finish packing for their 2-year journey around the world, a family adventure that somehow only included 3 people. The weight of abandonment settled in my chest as I turned toward the unfamiliar front door, wondering how I had become the expendable child in my own family. Before I share how I transformed from the unwanted daughter into something they never saw coming, let me know where you are watching from and hit that like button if you have ever felt like the outsider in your own family. Subscribe because you will not want to miss what happens next when I prove that sometimes being left behind is exactly what you need to find your true path forward. Looking back now, the signs of favoritism had been there since I could remember, painted in bold strokes across every family moment. Sophia arrived first 2 years before me, with golden hair that matched our mother Linda's, and bright blue eyes that sparkled when she smiled. I came later with chestnut brown hair and dark eyes like our father Robert, but somehow that shared trait never translated into his affection. Sophia was the shining star who could do no wrong, while I became the reliable shadow who was expected to understand and accept less. Every birthday told the same story with painful clarity. Sophia's celebrations were grand affairs, with themed decorations, professional photography, and guest lists that filled our suburban home with laughter and music. She would get the latest gadgets, expensive clothes, and whatever musical instrument caught her fancy that year. My birthdays were quieter occasions marked by a simple cake from the grocery store, a few practical gifts, and the constant reminder that Sophia's piano recital the following week needed everyone's attention and energy. The piano became the soundtrack to my childhood feelings of inadequacy. Every afternoon after school, I would hear those keys dancing under Sophia's talented fingers, while our father sat beside her on the bench, patiently guiding her through complicated pieces. He would beam with pride at her progress, telling anyone who would listen about his musically gifted daughter. Meanwhile, I discovered my own talents on the track field, breaking school records and earning medals in sprint events. But those achievements felt invisible in our house, where classical music drowned out everything else. When I turned 14, I made a determined effort to win their attention through athletics. I trained relentlessly, pushing myself harder than my coaches recommended, earning first-place finishes in regional competitions. I would come home with shiny medals and certificates, hoping to see that same proud gleam in my parents' eyes that Sophia received so easily. Instead, I found them discussing Sophia's upcoming performance at the state youth piano competition, planning her outfit and recording equipment, while my trophies gathered dust on a forgotten shelf. The isolation deepened when I taught myself to bake and cook, thinking perhaps domestic skills would earn their appreciation. I spent weekends creating elaborate meals and desserts, filling our kitchen with wonderful aromas and perfectly plated presentations. My parents would eat politely and offer brief compliments before returning their conversation to Sophia's latest musical accomplishments or academic achievements. Nothing I did seemed capable of shifting their focus toward me for more than a few minutes. The idea of a family world tour first surfaced during dinner conversations when I was 15. Initially, everyone spoke about this grand adventure as a complete family experience. We would spend 2 years traveling through Europe, Asia, and Australia, experiencing different cultures and creating memories that would last forever. I threw myself into research, creating detailed itineraries and learning basic phrases in various languages, genuinely excited about the prospect of extended family time away from the piano that monopolized our daily life. But gradually, the conversations began changing in subtle ways that made my stomach clench with growing dread. Talk shifted from family accommodations to arrangements for 3 people. When I asked direct questions about my inclusion in the plans, my mother would wave her hand dismissively and say I was 16 now and needed to focus on SAT preparation rather than gallivanting around the globe. My father nodded in agreement, suggesting that serious students did not take 2-year vacations during crucial academic periods. The final blow came on a cold February evening when my parents called me into our formal living room, the space reserved for important family discussions and uncomfortable conversations. They sat across from me on the cream-colored sofa, their expressions carefully neutral, as they delivered news that shattered my remaining illusions about my place in their family. I would be enrolled in a special boarding program that would provide intensive academic support, while they traveled with Sophia, who needed exposure to international music scenes for her artistic development. Of course, this special boarding program was actually the Miller foster home, though they presented it as an educational opportunity rather than abandonment. They explained that I needed to learn independence and self-reliance skills that would serve me well in adulthood. Sophia required their undivided attention during this critical period of her musical growth, and 3 people traveling together would be much more manageable than 4. The decision had already been made, arrangements finalized, and my enrollment confirmed for the following week. I spent that final week in my childhood bedroom, packing my belongings into a single suitcase, while listening to Sophia practice piano pieces from around the world, preparing for the cultural immersion that awaited her. My parents maintained cheerful attitudes, treating my departure like a positive step toward maturity, rather than acknowledging the devastating rejection it represented. They spoke about weekly phone calls and postcards from exotic locations, promising to stay connected despite the physical distance and emotional chasm that had always existed between us. The Miller foster home sat on a quiet residential street, a 2-story house with faded blue paint and a wraparound porch that had seen better decades. Inside, I discovered 8 other children, ranging in age from 10 to 17, each carrying stories of genuine hardship that made my situation feel both valid and shameful simultaneously. Mrs. Miller, a weathered woman in her 60s with kind eyes and calloused hands, welcomed me with practical warmth, showing me to a small bedroom I would share with Emma, a 14-year-old who had aged out of kinship care when her grandmother passed away. Jake became my first real friend in this unexpected chapter of life. At 17, he possessed a maturity born from years of navigating the foster system after his mother abandoned him at age 8. He had learned to read people quickly, recognizing pain and resilience in equal measure, and he saw something in me that others had missed. Jake helped me understand the unspoken rules of communal living while never making me feel pitied or patronized for my different circumstances. Marcus, 15, had arrived 6 months earlier, after his father received a lengthy prison sentence for drug-related charges. Unlike many foster children, Marcus maintained contact with his incarcerated parent through weekly letters and monthly visits, giving him hope for eventual reunion. Emma had been living with her elderly grandmother since infancy, until the woman's sudden heart attack left her completely alone in the world. Their stories of genuine abandonment and loss made me question whether my pain was legitimate or simply the complaints of a spoiled teenager who had never faced real adversity. The first few weeks blurred together in a haze of adjustment and suppressed grief. I attended a new high school where nobody knew about my family situation, allowing me to blend into anonymity while processing the reality of my new life. Phone calls home occurred every Sunday evening, brief conversations where my parents shared carefully edited highlights of their European adventures, while asking perfunctory questions about my studies and adjustment to foster care. These calls became weekly torture sessions, as I heard about their visits to the Louvre romantic dinners in Tuscan vineyards, and Sophia's private music lessons with renowned instructors in Vienna. Each conversation reinforced my exclusion from their happiness, making it impossible to move forward while remaining tethered to people who had chosen to leave me behind. The photos they sent via email showed 3 smiling faces, against backdrops of famous landmarks, their joy unmarred by any visible sense of loss or longing for their missing daughter. Sleep became elusive as I lay awake wondering what fundamental flaw made me so easy to discard. My grades began slipping as concentration became impossible, my mind constantly replaying moments from childhood, searching for clues about when I had become expendable. The foster home structure provided stability, but emotional healing seemed impossible while maintaining connection to people who had demonstrated my worthlessness so definitively. Everything changed during a particularly difficult evening when I found Jake sitting on the back porch, staring at stars barely visible through the city's light pollution. He had received word that his mother, whom he had not seen in 9 years, had been arrested again for drug possession, destroying his carefully maintained hope for eventual reconciliation. As we sat together in comfortable silence, I realized we shared something profound, despite our different circumstances. We had both been deemed unworthy of love by the people who should have protected us unconditionally. That night marked my decision to stop waiting for my family to realize their mistake and welcome me back into their charmed circle. Instead, I would focus on building a life that did not depend on their approval or inclusion. I had spent 16 years trying to earn love that was never available, and continuing that pattern would only guarantee further disappointment and self-destruction. Mrs. Miller noticed my struggles and suggested I help with meal preparation as a way to channel my restless energy into something productive. Cooking had always been a solitary activity in my previous life, but the foster home's kitchen became a collaborative space where I discovered talents I had never recognized. Working with limited budgets and basic ingredients, I created meals that brought genuine smiles to faces that rarely experienced joy. Jake became my most enthusiastic taste tester, offering honest feedback and encouragement as I experimented with flavors and techniques learned from YouTube videos and library cookbooks. The other foster children began requesting specific dishes, and Tuesday nights became special occasions when I prepared elaborate dinners that transformed our dining room into something approaching festive. These small victories felt more meaningful than any medal or trophy I had earned in my previous life. Mrs. Miller recognized something special in my culinary instincts and began sharing her own knowledge gained from decades of feeding foster children on tight budgets. She taught me how to stretch ingredients, balance nutrition with taste, and create comfort through food during difficult times. Under her guidance, I began understanding cooking as both art and service, a way to nurture others while expressing creativity and passion. 18 months into my foster care experience, my family returned from their global adventure, but the reunion I had secretly hoped for never materialized. Instead, I received a phone call explaining that they had decided I should remain at the foster home until my 18th birthday. Sophia needed a quiet environment to prepare for her Juilliard auditions, and my presence would create unnecessary distractions during this crucial period of her artistic development. The conversation lasted 12 minutes, filled with casual updates about their travels and practical discussions about my remaining time in foster care. I could hear Sophia practicing piano in the background, the familiar melody serving as soundtrack to my final rejection. They had spent 2 years traveling the world bonding as a trio, while I built a completely separate life among strangers who had shown me more genuine care and support than my biological family ever had. That evening, I called their house one final time, not to argue or plead, but to listen. Through the phone, I heard the sounds of home that no longer belonged to me. Sophia's laughter echoed from the kitchen, where she helped our mother prepare dinner, their voices blending in comfortable harmony. My father's footsteps moved through hallways where family photos now displayed only 3 faces, evidence of their edited history, where I had been successfully erased. The realization hit me with stunning clarity rather than devastating pain. These people had never been my real family, despite sharing DNA and a surname. They were simply individuals who had provided housing and basic necessities during my childhood, while withholding the emotional connection and unconditional love that defines true family relationships. I felt oddly liberated rather than destroyed, finally understanding that their rejection reflected their limitations, rather than my inadequacy. At 17, I enrolled in a culinary arts program at the local community college, using money earned from my part-time job at Tony's Italian kitchen downtown. The work was demanding, starting with basic prep tasks, like chopping vegetables and cleaning equipment, but I absorbed every lesson with fierce determination. Tony, the gruff owner who had immigrated from Naples 40 years earlier, initially hired me out of kindness, but quickly recognized my natural instincts and work ethic. My real breakthrough came when Chef Amanda Rodriguez joined Tony's kitchen as head chef, bringing fine dining experience from restaurants in Chicago and New York. She possessed the technical skills and creative vision I desperately wanted to learn. But more importantly, she saw potential in me that others had missed. Chef Amanda became the mentor I had never expected to find, pushing me beyond comfort zones while providing guidance and encouragement that helped me believe in possibilities I had never imagined. Under Chef Amanda's direction, I worked 12 to 14-hour days practicing knife skills until my fingers bled and memorizing recipes until they became second nature. She taught me about flavor profiles, presentation techniques, and the business side of restaurant operations. Most importantly, she helped me understand cooking as a form of communication, a way to express care and creativity that transcended words and cultural barriers. During quiet moments between dinner rushes, Chef Amanda shared stories about her own journey from a struggling single mother to an accomplished chef who had earned respect in male-dominated kitchens. She had faced discrimination and skepticism, but persevered through talent, determination, and refusal to accept limitations others tried to impose. Her success provided a blueprint for my own aspirations, while proving that exceptional achievements were possible, regardless of background or circumstances. I started documenting my culinary experiments on Instagram, photographing dishes I created at home and work, while sharing stories about ingredients, techniques, and inspiration. The account grew slowly but steadily, attracting followers who appreciated both the visual appeal and personal narratives behind each creation. Food became my language for connecting with people who understood passion and creativity, building a community that valued my contributions in ways my biological family never had. When Chef Amanda learned about my foster care situation and academic goals, she helped me research scholarship opportunities at prestigious culinary institutes. Together, we crafted application essays and prepared portfolio materials that showcased my skills and dedication. Her recommendation letters emphasized my work ethic, natural talent, and potential for excellence in professional kitchens, painting a picture of someone worth investing in, despite unconventional circumstances. The acceptance letter from the Culinary Institute of America arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, accompanied by notification of a full scholarship that would cover tuition, housing, and basic expenses. I had been selected from hundreds of applicants based on demonstrated ability, academic performance, and potential for leadership in the culinary industry. For the first time in my life, I felt genuinely valued for my unique gifts and capabilities. My final week at the foster home became a celebration rather than a goodbye. I planned and prepared a 7-course farewell dinner featuring dishes I had perfected over the previous year, each course representing a lesson learned or relationship formed during my time there. Jake, Emma, Marcus, and the other children gathered around our dining table, which I had transformed with borrowed linens and carefully arranged flowers from Mrs. Miller's garden. As I served each course, explaining techniques and ingredients, while watching faces light up with genuine appreciation, I understood that this was what family actually looked like. These people had chosen to care about my success and happiness without expecting anything in return. They celebrated my achievements without resentment or competition, offering support and encouragement that helped me believe in myself when self-doubt threatened my progress. Mrs. Miller pulled me aside after dinner, pressing a small wrapped package into my hands with tears in her eyes. Inside, I found a professional knife set with a note that read, "Caroline, you have transformed pain into purpose and shown us all what resilience looks like. Use these tools to create beautiful things, and remember that you will always have family here." Her words meant more than any graduation speech or academic honor I would ever receive. Now at 25, I stand in the kitchen of Lumiere, a Michelin-starred restaurant in Manhattan where I serve as sous chef under James Beard Award winner, Chef Marcus Chen. My apartment overlooks the Hudson River, filled with cookbooks, professional equipment, and photographs from culinary adventures around the world. The scared 16-year-old who stood outside that foster home has evolved into a confident professional whose talents are recognized and respected by industry leaders. My Instagram food blog now boasts over 100,000 followers who eagerly await each post, featuring original recipes, behind-the-scenes restaurant content, and stories about ingredients sourced from local farmers and international suppliers. Last month, I signed a contract with a major publishing house for my first cookbook, which will explore the connection between food memory and healing. The advance payment allowed me to purchase a small investment property that I am converting into affordable housing for young adults aging out of foster care. Alex, my boyfriend of 2 years, is a food photographer whose artistic vision perfectly complements my culinary creations. We met during a collaborative project between his magazine and our restaurant, initially bonding over shared appreciation for visual storytelling and authentic flavors. Unlike the conditional relationships I had known growing up, Alex's love feels steady and unconditional, based on genuine admiration for who I am, rather than what I might become with enough effort and compromise. Jake, Emma, Marcus, and I maintain close relationships that have evolved into chosen family bonds stronger than blood connections. Jake completed his engineering degree and now designs sustainable restaurant equipment, while Emma founded a nonprofit organization supporting kinship care families. Marcus became a social worker, specializing in adolescent advocacy, using his own experiences to help other young people navigate difficult transitions. We gather monthly for dinners, where we celebrate successes, offer support during challenges, and remind each other that our difficult beginnings do not determine our eventual destinations. The healing process required years of therapy, self-reflection, and conscious choice to release resentment that served no productive purpose. Initially, I carried anger like armor, protecting myself from further rejection while limiting my capacity for genuine connection and joy. Through patient work with skilled counselors, I learned to separate my worth from other people's ability to recognize and appreciate it. Foster care, which had seemed like punishment and abandonment, gradually revealed itself as unexpected liberation from a family system that would never have allowed me to flourish authentically. In that environment, I had been competing for attention and approval that were never available, wasting energy and creativity on impossible tasks, while my real talents lay undiscovered and undeveloped. The people who surrounded me during those crucial years provided something my biological family could not genuine support for my individual growth and success. They celebrated my achievements without feeling threatened, offered guidance without expecting gratitude, and created space for me to discover my authentic self without judgment or comparison. This experience taught me that family is defined by choice and commitment rather than genetics and shared history. Professional success tastes particularly sweet because it represents personal agency rather than inherited advantage. Every promotion, recognition, and opportunity has been earned through effort, talent, and perseverance, rather than family connections or financial support. My achievements belong entirely to me, unmarked by obligation or expectation that might diminish their satisfaction. 6 months ago, Sophia appeared at Lumiere's bar during our busy Friday evening service, recognizing me through the kitchen's pass window, where I was expediting orders with characteristic precision and intensity. After service ended, we shared a brief conversation that revealed how differently our lives had unfolded since that day they drove away without me. Sophia's musical career had stalled after completing her degree at Juilliard, where she discovered that technical proficiency without genuine passion creates beautiful but soulless performances. She now teaches piano lessons to supplement income from occasional wedding gigs, living in a studio apartment while struggling to pay student loans and basic expenses. Our parents had divorced 2 years earlier, after financial pressures and unresolved conflicts destroyed their marriage, leaving both daughters to navigate adulthood without family support or guidance. During our conversation, I felt neither satisfaction nor resentment about these revelations. The anger and pain that had once consumed my thoughts about them had been replaced by neutral acceptance and genuine hope for their individual happiness. They had made choices based on their understanding and capabilities at the time, just as I had learned to make different choices that served my own growth and well-being. Looking back now with perspective that only time and healing can provide, I recognize that being left behind was actually the greatest gift my family could have given me, though certainly not their intention. In trying to discard me, they inadvertently freed me from expectations and limitations that would have kept me small and grateful, rather than ambitious and self-determined. Sometimes the universe uses rejection as redirection, guiding us toward people and opportunities that better match our authentic selves and genuine potential. The day my parents drove away from that foster home was not the day I lost my family, but the day I became free to find my real one among people who saw and valued my true worth. What started as abandonment became transformation, proving that our beginnings do not dictate our endings when we choose courage over comfort and growth over resentment. The scared 16-year-old holding that old suitcase could never have imagined the life I have built from the ashes of her disappointment and pain. Now, when I look back, I realize that the day they dropped me off at that foster home was not the day I was abandoned. It was the day I was set free to become exactly who I was meant to be. Have you ever experienced rejection that later became the best thing that happened to you? Share your story in the comments below, because your journey might inspire someone else who feels lost right now. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of turning pain into purpose. Share this video with anyone who needs a reminder that being unwanted by some people just means you are meant for something better. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that your worth is not determined by other people's ability to see it. Until next time, keep cooking up your own beautiful life.